Your next challenge starts now. Directors, congratulations again on being the finalists for this last episode of Project Directing. In just a few days, you'll be presenting your final scenes to the audience and to the judges. But I'm not really good at waiting around to see who the winner's going to be. So I'm just going to tell you your fortunes now. Starting with Alex. So, Alex, I'm going to give you a tarot card reading, and first you have to shuffle the deck. Great. So, the reading I'm going to give you is a 3-card reading. The first card represents you at this moment in your life. The second card represents an obstacle. And the third card will represent a goal or a possible outcome, okay? So the first card representing you is the Hermit. Now, although he looks like quite a lonely old man, and generally being a hermit isn't necessarily seen as a good thing, this is quite a positive card. This is someone who's very confident in their intellectual moment. They're okay being alone. It's a sort of celebration of an introverted moment in your life. This next card is your obstacle. Temperance is all about moderation in all things. So it seems perhaps that your obstacle might be balancing things out properly. Your final card is the High Priestess. The High Priestess card is all about passivity. It's all about letting things happen, observing and letting it all just flow over you. Alex, this concludes your tarot card reading for today.
Thank you.
Yep. Hannah? So your first card is Death. Now, Death might not sound like the best card, but it actually is a positive card. It means the end of something, which means the new beginning of something else. The phoenix has to burst into flames before it's reborn from the ashes. And that's this moment. It's symbolized most by this rising sun in the background, which shows you that there is a new thing coming. Your obstacle is the Lovers. The Lovers is a card about togetherness, is about two people or more people connecting. So while it does have some connotations of sexuality, we have the two nude figures here, it's more about togetherness. So perhaps your obstacle is finding how you might deal with keeping together in the wake of this new change that's affecting your life, that this new beginning's happening, and maybe what you're feeling trepidation about is a loss of a togetherness. Your final card is the Hanged Man. Now, the Hanged Man is stuck. You can see that while he's stuck, he's not in pain. He has a halo around him. He's quite calm in his place of stasis. But it is about not moving. It is about observing for a bit and being comfortable with that, being comfortable in a place which isn't rapidly progressing, which is a place, and being pleased with it. And that is your tarot card reading. Raph, one left. So your first card is the Hanged Man. Now the Hanged Man is about being in stasis. It's there's no motion. So while he is stationary and not moving, you can tell by his face that he's comfortable with this. He's calm about it. He has a halo around him. The Hanged Man also, perhaps in this moment, might represent a crossroads. You can see how his leg is crossed over itself, making a crossroads. So this could mean that there is a choice and that you're waiting to see which way to go with this. Your challenge card is the Star. The Star is quite a positive card. It is inspiration. It is reaching for the stars. It is a wonderful moment. And so perhaps at the crossroads, you're wondering which one is the one that leads to this great moment, this wonderful thing to happen. Your future card is the Fool. The Fool is both unknowing, but in a good way. It means here perhaps a leap of faith. So while the Fool is walking off the cliff, this might be symbolic of making a leap of faith, of going for it. He has a strong sun in the air. He's accompanied by a dog. He's holding a flower. His bindle stick is pointing towards the sun. There is great opportunity in his future. He's beginning a journey, and it just needs him to make that choice. So, it's quite clear, I'm sure, what your challenge is, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For your final challenge, you're to create a scene no longer than 6 minutes. The scene must draw inspiration from one of the tarot cards that was in your tarot card reading. So whether it's the meanings that that card holds, whether it's some of the iconography on that card, you'll have to choose one card that will serve as inspiration for it. Any questions? I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Oh, don't stop. I was gonna say, are you guys excited about the finale taping of season 2 of Project Directing? But I think you've already told me. We are just missing our directors. Welcome, directors, to the showcase finale of season 2 of Project Directing. Today, you were asked to make a scene no longer than 6 minutes, inspired by a tarot card from the tarot card readings we did together on Monday. For this challenge, you're judged on the criteria of creativity, structure, and overall direction. The prize for the winner of Project Directing is a patron night ticket to the Scottish National Ballet at Sadler's Wells. They have a double bill of Céciles Monco and Emergence. Our judges today, you know well, they are myself, they are Dr. Bryce Leese, they're Dr. Elaine McGurr, and as a special guest judge, the audience themselves. The audience will get to vote at the end for which piece they think is deserving of winning Project Directing. And they will also be part of our deliberation process when we are discussing what we thought of the pieces. So I think we're going to begin with Alex's piece, but if you all have a seat, we'll watch a video of our last check-in about the project together. Hi Alex, I'm just gonna check in with you to see what thoughts you've had so far about the project. Have you chosen a card?
Yes, I've chosen the Temperance card.
And what about that card drew you to it?
Initially, it was a sort of gut feeling when you presented it and how you were talking through it. But also, when I researched it a bit further, I realised that, so you mentioned that there was a sort of pouring of water into wine, but there's several different interpretations of that specific image. One of them was the idea of, in fact, it's both water, and instead of someone pouring it into something, the water's going backwards, back into the cup, and it's this sort of subversion of conscious and unconscious. So I'm really interested in this sort of, but I was interested in more by the fact it could be interpreted so differently, and then also this idea of subversion and the balance of different energies.
Can you reflect at all on anything you might have gotten out of project directing so far?
Interestingly, I've worked a lot with text before, and those are the ones which I've done less well on than the ones with the Twitter and more unconventional text or the music. I've been more successful in terms of the marking. I think it's made me realise the outcome or the sort of perception of how people receive the work means less to me than the process does. And working through finding things out about him as a director, I think means more to me.
Cool. Well, good luck going into the finale.
Thank you.
And I will see you on Thursday.
Cheers.
Great.
See you then.
Alex, would you like to introduce the piece?
Yeah. So this is the tarot card that I have been making a 6-minute performance out of. It is Temperance. Now, it's not a colour version, so it's quite hard to discern what's from this distance what it is. Now, we've decided to focus particularly on the bottom of the image, where this sort of angelic figure is dipping his or her toes into the pond and keeping one foot on dry land. The idea of temperance as the definition is moderation or self-restraint, not throwing yourself into things. And we were interested in exploring the idea of moderation in activity and the self-restraint in different activities, but also how temperance can be perceived as a very good thing and can also be perceived as something which is a bad quality as well. So, thank you very much.
Exercise.
Hydrate.
Laugh. Touch. Slap. What the fuck? What are you doing?
I don't know what one to pick.
Come on!
Hey, I'm trying to pick. I don't want it to be worse than what you're already doing. It's just gonna get worse.
Just pick one!
I don't know how to stop it.
Just pick
I
one!
can't. I don't want it to get worse than what you're already doing.
Hi, Hannah.
I will.
I'm just checking in and seeing how things are going and what your thoughts behind this new challenge is. So, have you chosen a card?
Yes, I have. I'm going to be looking at the Hanged Man.
Great. And what drew you to that card in particular?
It was the one that I, like when you first read them out, I thought of that one and I thought of some stupidly ridiculous ideas that I'll never be able to do. I wanted to, like, get hold of some, like, aerial circus equipment and hang it from the rig of the CCT because I've wanted to do that since day one of this degree when I realised that it was possible to do that in here. And I was like, this is my last chance, but I'm pretty sure Natalie would slay me.
What have you started to learn from the production, assuming you've learned things along the way?
Assuming, yeah. I think I've learnt that I'm quite a light-hearted, like I'm into light-hearted, fun stuff. I don't know, I think everything I've done so far, like without me trying to make a thread or anything, has all been just a little bit fun.
Well, that's good. And I think your last scene certainly had a lot of fun in it. And I think that capturing the fun, lightheartedness on stage is something that's attractive to audiences. We zone into that. We like watching fun. We like watching a good time. So creating that is not easy. And I think you have done that. Great. Well, I will see you on Thursday.
Okay.
And I look forward to your Hanged Man.
Hannah, would you like to introduce your piece?
Oh, golly, yes, I would. Hi, I'm Hannah. I was going to explain that I was wanting to play with being stuck, but past me just did, so that was nice of her. Yeah, so this is my piece.
Oh!
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 Oh.
Let's take a look at Raph's intro.
Hey Raph, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. I'm just going to check in to see how you're going in this challenge.
Yeah.
Have you chosen a card?
Yes, no, I have chosen a card. I've chosen the Fool.
And what drew you to that card?
What really drew me to that card was basically the idea of that it could be I think it's the Major Arcana, but also the Zero, and the idea that it kind of links back to an idea that I often get, I don't know, quite invested in, which is that we kind of start the world off as fools and we end our life as fools too. So I've chosen the Fool because of that, and the idea of with the card there was that sort of leap off a cliff, off a mountain. So I was thinking about the way that the leap of faith that you have to put your mind into when it comes to death, and also there were kind of the leap into life too.
And how does it feel knowing that you've made it into the finale?
To have made it this far, given the fact that I've been amongst such great directors, has been really, it's been a really nice thing.
And have you learned anything in project directing process?
Yes, I have actually. I'd say that this process has been really useful for me because of just being given lots of little tasks to do and lots of different genres which I'd never touched before, and in fact would be scared to touch. It makes me want to experiment more and to just branch out and take more risks.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure watching your work so far this season, and I'm very much looking forward to what you do with The Fool.
Awesome.
Until Thursday.
Yeah, no, totally.
Raph, would you like to give us a little introduction?
Yeah. Hi. So, the idea changed. Basically, you're supposed to have dialogue, and then I was trying to write dialogue, and writing dialogue is hard, and I hate it. So, this piece has no dialogue. So, anyway, I hope you enjoy the piece.
back and we'll ask you some questions. Alex, we'll start with your piece. How did the temperance card feed into your final performance?
It was particularly what I said in the introduction is that the sort of bottom of the image, particularly in this idea that temperance is the idea of waiting and before jumping in. So the card before that is the idea of the fool jumping into something, and this comes after the fool in the pack. So it's the concept of precision, sort of balance, thinking things through before acting, and also self-restraint. So that's what we were interested in, the ideas of like moderation within like activities. So there's the pond, and it's the idea of exercise is something which is great in moderation. Water is something that is great in moderation, and how that like something refreshing like water after an activity could also become something out of moderation that's quite bad if you don't have self-constraint. Then we had the sort of character that Harry played was playing the idea of temperance, and that he would think things through before acting in a way that the other characters didn't, and how that was both beneficial to him, but also not taking action can also be something which can be bad and can sometimes have bad consequences.
Who would you say influenced your aesthetic or your techniques on this last challenge?
Consciously influenced, I didn't really pick a sort of person, but sort of looking back on it now, there's parallels between the sort of work of Secret Theatre and a series of impossible acts, a series of impossible acts, this idea of game playing, and also sort of there's a show by Made in China called Gym Party, and there's a sort of competitive element to that as well. But I think in that like devising of it and the process of making it, it wasn't something that was necessarily driven by that, but in reflection, I can see how it's sort of been influenced and can be seen.
I actually found your piece very like fabric-y in the whole idea of making actors go through things that are uncomfortable for them while they perform. But I got a bit confused with the skewing between what was reality for the actors and what was performance. So it was hard watching them do push-ups because that's hard. It was hard watching them drink a lot of water because it's hard. But then watching Harry be tickled, I found was more performance. So I wondered what your views were on that line between reality and performance and how you incorporated that into the piece.
We wanted the acts that like people to actually like find it very physically difficult, so they would push themselves beyond that restraint, that self-restraint. We wanted that something to be real, because sort of acts like acting like you're tired is quite difficult, and it can for the temperance to work, for the idea of like the stakes to be high enough for him to not want to do the thing, it needed to be sort of real. Or as an audience we might go, no one's going to get hurt here, or no one's going to like no one's in any sort of danger, so there's no sense of urgency to it. So I guess by making the binary between if it's performance or real and asking that question, but making the audience ask that question, I think we wanted to then raise the stakes and make it like place them in the position of temperance and think what they would do in that position. Whereas if it's purely performative, there is this sense of, well, I can step back from this, but it's almost like in a horror film where there is a character who you're like, oh, I wouldn't do what they would do. I wouldn't do what they would do. And making you guys think, what would I do in that position if I had to do that thing? But I suppose that idea of the tickling particularly, we had to make it a little bit, we had to try and show that he was enjoying it to an extent, and they were not enjoying the fact that he got a good or an easy task. So just to make clear that they were like, that he wasn't being horrible about it, he was trying not to enjoy it but was enjoying it. So we needed to show that he was not actively a bad person but was trying his best.
Great, we'll go on to Hannah's piece. Hannah, can you talk to us about how the ideas of the hangman fed into this performance?
I started being interested by the idea of being stuck and what it meant to be stuck. But if you look, I wasn't clever enough like Alex to print the card, but on the card is basically a guy that's hung upside down by his foot. He's like this, but he's pretty chilled, and sort of I wanted to play with the idea of, because I was reading into the card and it basically said that back in the day that used to kind of be a punishment, but in the card the hanging man doesn't look like he's being punished. It's almost like a self-afflicted punishment, like maybe he's just sort of sent himself there as a kind of self-sacrifice thing. So I wanted to play with the idea of things where we give ourselves boundaries that make us stuck, and you know what it means to mentally make yourself stuck, or when you're actually stuck, if that makes sense.
I loved the piece, just to say that, and I thought it was beautiful in its simplicity and really, really clear to me, except for one bit. At nearing the end, I understood why Jack went back to the circle. For me, it was like we sometimes go back to where we're stuck because it's comfortable. But what I didn't understand was like why he had his hands over his ears, and I just wondered if you could explain that a little bit.
The idea that came from was sort of how sometimes you're right in that being stuck can be comfortable, but it's also the idea that being within boundaries can be sort of safe, and sometimes boundaries can be good things. So if we take away all boundaries, then sometimes everything can get a bit too chaotic and a bit too like unstructured. And so that we were sort of playing with the idea of vocals, obviously, and then the vocals symbolizing things getting a bit too much. With Jack having his hands over his ears, it's just sort of the whole like, no, this is too much. This has got out of control now, and I want to go back to this security of the boundary.
Great. And lastly, Raf, your piece. Can you tell us about how the card The Fool inspired this piece?
Yes. Again, like Alex, I didn't print off something to show you, but like basically the Fool, he's like got a bag, and he's got a little dog, and he's walking off a cliff. And importantly, he's holding a white rose, which apparently represents kind of innocence and purity and maybe like naivety. And I don't know, you saw how that was in my piece.
Hi, I wonder if you could talk about the music and in particular your choices behind where you use the music, because obviously there was that block of silence in the middle of it, and for me where the music stopped and started was quite abrupt, so I was just wondering if you could explain some of your thinking behind where you put the music in.
Yeah, our rehearsal process was quite short, and so getting the music timings and stuff was something that I think we were working on, but the main thing is that I wanted there to be silence for that period when she was by herself painting, and so just so that was a more reflective period of time. And then again also like silence for the point where she died, because again that was just a moment I didn't really want to punctuate with any music. But so those were the two uses of silence that I really were like I wanted to use.
I have a question about use of costumes and stuff how to establish characters.
Yeah.
If you could elaborate on that, and especially the painting.
Yeah.
On the arms and stuff, because you know I thought of it as a deceased, and I was waiting at the end for like the cardigan to go off or something about that to show the moment. So I just wonder if you could elaborate on the choices there.
First of all, like it was kind of almost like paint on the hands, but then it was kind of just working down, and I wanted it to be a symbol of like some sort of terminal disease. And so then when there was that sort of reveal, I wanted the audience to be able to look at that and go, okay, she only has so long to live, and she's recognizing that when she's looking at herself.
Well, thank you very much, directors. You've given us a lot to think about and consider, and we will now deliberate. So you may exit the theater. We will now have you vote. So,
I really enjoyed them. Having come in to judge a couple of episodes ago, it was lovely to see how they've progressed and how styles have stayed with directors. And it was a really interesting final and very unexpected from some of them as well. So it was very fun.
And I think the clearest was Hannah's, whereas the others, they were trying to pack too much in. And so it was a little ambiguous, which is why I asked, like, what about Vicky and Raf's for particular? But I think, it was a great task, and I think I wish we had it. Like,
no, I love Shakespeare.
No.
Mm-hmm. My issue with all of the performances was the ending.
Yeah.
Every single ending was so abrupt. I wasn't sure what the meaning was. There was so much I wished for as an audience member. I was slightly disappointed by every single ending because there were some things that I wished to see or wanted to hear or feel that I didn't get. So
applause should never have to be started by the person who knows when the end is. It should be started by us because we should know when the end is. But I didn't get that from anyone.
Yeah, I would say though, like in in 6 minutes, they all did incredibly.
Wonders,
Yeah. Like we had 10
so
minutes
well.
last
Yeah, we
year.
had 10.
And I think that all of them had things that they could be worked on. So that Hannah's like pushing that past 6 minutes might be quite tricky, but there's lots of pathways. But she, in 6 minutes, was concise, clear, and gave us her tarot card. So
We
very
felt the
impressive.
most from it, I think.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed them. I think for the amount of time that they had, it was really remarkable to see what they've come up with. I think it's a really peculiar challenge as well. I don't think any of us would have expected something like that. So for them to take that card and develop the pieces that they have out of that, I think they've all done a really good job.
I also enjoyed it very much, but I was ever so slightly frustrated because having talked to all three of them, and also when I was watching the pieces, there were a lot of moments where I thought, oh, that's almost really, really good. Like, I feel like if they'd had more time, what we would have seen today would have been absolutely outstanding. I actually thought that in terms of performances, last week was really incredible, the last challenge. And I think for this one, I was pleased to see people taking bigger risks and going in new directions. But for me, there were a lot of moments that I was kind of like disappointed, where I think things felt just ever so slightly flat.
To emphasise that professional directors will sit and swoon around ideas for months, if not years, before the production materialises. So to be given a matter of hours to come up with a piece of material, it's incredibly challenging. It's fun, it's a great thing to learn, to come up with something on the spot and things like that, but I think the structures that are in place that all of us have directed with prior to this have allowed us to sort of gear us towards a professional environment, that we've had time to think about it, we've had months to work on it, etc. Whereas this is a very different type of challenge, and it's been, I think, a struggle for us to adapt to that. And I think, like Emily said, in relation to coming up with ideas, time between coming up with ideas and then having to work with the actors is a big problem, because it then comes across quite unprofessional if you go in and go, well, I haven't got a clue yet, let's sit around for half an hour and try and work something out. Whereas quite a lot of actors rely on the director being very specific and saying, this is my concept, this is my idea, and that's how they work. So it then brings into question working relationships and how a director works with an actor in that respect.
So I'd just like to say an opposing opinion to everyone else. I actually thought Raf's piece was my favourite. I don't necessarily think it was the best, but it's been described as kind of unrelatable, but for me it genuinely moved me. I actually had a lump in my throat watching it, and I've not felt that way about watching any other piece on this show this season. So I think that a lot of the ideas there needed to be developed, but it had something there that was, I think, a more complicated and more interesting idea than the other pieces. And, you know, as I said, it really touched me, yeah.
Okay, great. So let us go through our thoughts on these. Temperance?
I liked the play with that line between pleasure and pain, or between temperance and excess. I thought that was nicely done in the push-ups and the water and the tickling, and then the kind of sadness that you can't tickle yourself, and kind of that was a very poignant moment for me. But then the end ruined it.
Yeah, it just really petered off. I thought that there was no button, and I thought that the slapping was the first time that the performers really did look uncomfortable. You could see Orla wince as one of them was coming, and then she's like, okay, no, just like do it again. And like that didn't look like scripted wincing. That looked like I'm uncomfortable with this scenario.
But also it was the only one that wasn't playing with that paradigm of pleasure and pain. It was that they're gearing themselves up for it.
Yeah. Because the slap could be fun.
Yeah,
it didn't have to be on the
could have been a
face,
slap
you
and
know?
Tickle.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
especially coming after tickle, it could have been an escalation of that physicality in a way that, and especially with you have the gender dynamics, that it could have turned into something that was almost threatening, but also almost pleasurable, where moderation is necessary, and I didn't get that.
One of the things that bothered me most was that it established the stakes. You know, the performers were like, we have to do this. There were high stakes in like doing it. But then when they failed at the task, there was nothing that came. Yeah. So I was like, there were no high stakes. Like nothing happened. They didn't have to be doing it. They just sort of walked away at the end. And I was like, there weren't actually high stakes. So for me, that was a real drain of the energy of it.
Yeah. You liked it.
I liked it. I thought it was, of all of the pieces, the one most connected to strategies of contemporary theatre makers that I watch. I saw something of Antoine Good in it, something of Made in China. Like Abby, I saw something of Jan Faber with making the actors work hard, not acting in quotation marks. I liked that the anticipation of each of the scenes connected the actors to us. So we both discovered together. I thought that was an interesting and inventive. But I do agree, the payoff was a letdown again and again and again. The water should have been an explosive, kind of violent gesture of drinking. Similarly, with the even the push-ups, I thought the tickling could have gone much farther within a kind of ethical boundaries. What I liked about the slapping was that I thought at first they were trying to find, by slapping each other's hands, they were finding an ethical solution to a dilemma. But then when they started slapping each other, I thought, oh no, they're just negotiating it. And the ending, I agree, let it down.
Hanged Man.
I always say comedy is 10 times harder than tragedy. And Hannah throughout has proven that she has deft comic timing and a really good eye for both visual and verbal paced comedy. So I like it.
I was most struck by how much the audience seemed to really tune into that one. And for them, it really spoke to them. They really saw the idea of being stuck and what it was about.
It's a metaphor for graduation.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are a week before the end. And they're going to have to leave their safe space, and some of them don't want to leave their safe space. But, you know, get out.
Yeah, for me, this wasn't about being stuck. It was absolutely about liberation and the conditions of liberation. And the responsibility of liberation. And actually, I thought she used the musicality of language and the bodies really well to articulate or to find rhythm, but also to kind of find points of coalition that were political, to really, really seriously think about conflict. So that was all interesting. There were some questions around gender that I wasn't entirely comfortable with. But I did like when she talked about punishment, that when you test the boundaries, that can be a punitive exercise. I thought that was interesting. And then the ending, I thought it didn't land.
Yeah, the ending didn't get all the way there for me either. I did like the choice to not make another circle at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
That it was like, we don't have to repeat the same pattern. This can be something that's more open. And like Abby said in the feedback, that it was the female's choice to do that. So there was still female agency in the piece. Even though I did find that sort of removal of the rope from them a bit jarring.
But sometimes the mama bird has to push you out of the nest.
It's true. And on to The Fool with Raf's piece.
I think this is the weakest piece that Raf has done for the entire time in project directing.
I agree. I was really let down, I thought, by this one.
The music, he was asking the music to do too much of the work for him. It sounded like Zbigniew Hubner or something. It sounded, it's this high stakes emotive music that when it came in and out didn't add to any of the tension, it took away from it. So the piece in some ways sort of relies on and competes with the music.
Yeah. And also, I'm sorry, but at some parts of it, we're literally watching paint dry.
Yes.
And I was like, this is the literal definition of disinteresting.
Yes. And the mother, and having the mother as this controlling person, and also, as one of the audience members pointed out, not who this is about, is so cliched, as well as the struggling artist. And then this kind of violence of death and the paint in the body. I did feel like this was acting in quotation marks.
It was just a series of cliches strung together with really annoying music.
And the fact that those paintings, those vagina flowers, were so obviously Georgia O'Keeffe, you're not any artist. You can only be Georgia O'Keeffe because those are iconically Georgia O'Keeffe paintings. So like this idea that this person's any artist, it doesn't work. It'd be like if I threw Van Gogh paintings out there and I'm like, well, it could be anybody. It's
Well,
like,
I liked, in Ralph's defense, I mean, I agree it was his weakest of the whole season, but I liked the kind of everyman conceit that we are going to tell a story about mortality and the circularity of life and how you can't take it with you. But none of the characters really did any work at any point to connect to the audience. There was no poignancy, and there's also no carefreeness. The fool is meant to be carefree, and that skip off the cliff is supposed to be Wile E. Coyote. You know, there is no gravity for me because I am the fool, and it might not be because I will get away with it. And I think that's what I was really missing from this, that the possibility of the fool.
The judges have reached a decision. Let's bring in the directors. So I will let the three of you know that the audience let us know who their favorite director was, and for the audience, they thought that the best piece was Hannah's. And I'm really excited to announce who the winner of Project Directing Season 2 is. I'm so excited, I literally have ants in my pants about it. The winner of Season 2 of Project Directing is Hannah. Congratulations, Hannah. Congratulations, you're going to be coming along with me to a patrons night at Souther's House.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys all for being really great sports and for showing us some really great stuff throughout the season. And we will see what else you do in the future.
So, guys, now we've reached the end of the process. What do you think of your experience as a whole? Let's start with you, Ralph.
I think it's been pretty good, to be fair. It's been a good experience. Learned lots of things. Made lots of friends.
I can say I think it was a nice supportive atmosphere, and because most of the times, bar like one, you felt the tension anyway because you were working on your own, and then it was nice to have that sort of supportive atmosphere when we were getting feedback.
It was nice when we were all watching each other's stuff to be able to be like, yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
You did a good thing, and I'm proud of you. Like it's been cool to have a great squad of people that we've been able to all work together and.
Yeah,
you know.
it's been really, really good. Just like seeing everyone's pieces. Yeah, I'm just reiterating
it's like
what
one
I'm saying.
big project directing family.
Do you agree with the order that you all finished with over the whole series?
I think that's it's weird because, like, I think what's weird about eliminations is that you can, like, screw up once and that's it, you're done. So I don't think this order would ever be considered a definitive ranking of who is, like, oh, who's the best director. Like it just doesn't speak to that because just because you screwed up once, just maybe that's, you know, everyone screws up.
I constantly felt like it was flipping. It was going like, everyone was just like, and it's just how people like react to a different challenge, and
depending on the judges as well. Like
that's true.
Certain of the judges like different things, so you'd know going into judging.
That bias that you were talking about.
Damn that.
Bias is real. Hashtag the bias is real.
Actually, let's go final question here. Final question, Hannah. Do you believe that the way to win project directing is with gender politics?
No. I believe the way to win project directing is to just have fun and do your best. No, that's lame. Just like have fun and, you know, make sure people are telling you that you can't, because then you have to show them that you can.
Project. Directing. Project. Directing. Project.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Word. Yeah.